In Canada, real GDP is down. We talk about an economy that's going well. Well, real GDP continues to decline. GDP per capita continues to go down. That means the amount of economic output per person in Canada is continuing to decline at a steady rate. The government uses a ratio here called the debt to GDP ratio. And I know I've gone on about it previously, Madam Speaker, but I'll go on here with some detail because I'm hoping that people will understand it a little better. Canada's debt right now is approximately $1.3 trillion. That's the federal government's accumulated debt. Canada's GDP last year was approximately $2.1 trillion. So 2.1 trillion divided from 1.3 gives you a debt to GDP ratio equal to 62%. 62% is our debt to GDP ratio, and yet our government pretends it's in the 40% range, 42%, although 40% was their number they said they would not cross several budgets ago. And they continue to cross that and let it grow. So how do they get to this number that it's around 42%? Well, they add back the pension fund assets of Canadians. And that includes the Canada Pension Plan, which is about $600 billion of savings that are deducted directly off the paychecks of Canadians. And that was raised again this year. Those contributions from Canadians into the Canada Pension Plan were raised again this year. So about $600 billion is sitting in Canada's pension savings to distribute to Canadian pensioners when they retire. The Quebec Pension Plan similarly has about $100 billion of savings in it for Quebecers alone. So total, $700 billion. But this is not a $700 billion pool for the government. The thing about pension accounting is it is about assets and liabilities, like all accounting. And although there is a balance on their financial statements, there is also the liability of paying that to the people that paid into it for years. And Canada's chief actuary last year determined that all things going well, the Canada Pension Plan system is sustainable to pay the pensions that Canadians expect for 75 years. What that means is it's okay, it's balanced, but the assets and the liabilities are in balance. Everything collected in there is going to be paid out to the people that put the money into it. Therefore, if I may say with a close, it is not the government's financial asset. It belongs directly to Canadians from money that was deducted from their paychecks and should not be used in their debt to GDP ratio. I'm also going to talk about where we're going with this, because pensions are a major part of Canada's sustainability going forward here. And pensions matter in many respects, and this government is moving in a direction to try and change that pension management system because it wants to oversee it through its regulatory arm, the Office of the Superintendent of Financial Institutions. And that has to stop, Madam Speaker, because these are organizations that do need to manage one thing, and that is the outcome for the people whose money they're saving. That is what they should be doing. Whenever you ask a regulator to go in and change what's happening at an organization like a pension, what you're effectively doing is saying, take your eye off the ball about what you're supposed to be doing here and put your eye back onto something else here. Well, let me tell you what that leads to. That leads, like in the United States, to bank failures. Bank failures at smaller banks where they weren't matching their assets and their liabilities. And as a result, when interest rates changed, a whole bunch of smaller banks had a run on their capital and could not meet their liabilities. As a result, they went under. That's an example of where people that are in the financial industry are being distracted by other regulations being put on their plate from governments and regulators that takes away from what they should be doing for their client base, and that is managing their money effectively. Every pension manager, every money manager in the world has one mandate. Make sure that you're not losing money for your clients. Make sure that you are actually making money. and hopefully making money at greater than the rate of inflation, which we aren't in Canada right now. And hence the reason we have falling GDP per capita. We have more Canadians coming into the country, and they are not keeping up in the economy.